Good evening, everyone. My name is Em, and this is Life's Table. This evening, we are going to be making a delicious Italian balsamic roast chicken with vegetables. While we touch upon investing and building off of what we've already discussed through saving, while we bring all this all together, I'm hoping to have time for everything. But if I'm honest, investing is a whole lot of array of topics. So we'll see how far we get into it, and we'll probably continue further on for the next couple videos with more investing stuff. So tie back your hair if you have to, put on an apron if you've got one, and let's get cooking good looking. We've got a lot to learn this evening at Life's Table. So we are going to start out by preheating our ovens, and I realize that perhaps not all of us have ovens. That's totally okay. This meal can be done in a pan if you just pan fry or pan sear it. But I'm gonna go ahead and preheat my oven to 425, and then we will move on to our rice. For our rice, we are going to want about 1.5 cups. Typically we'll make enough rice. If you want a full 2 cups, you're welcome to. But I'm gonna go ahead and get out the measuring cup, larger one, while everything falls out. There we go. All right, and let's go ahead and get this pot, which I want. And I want this slightly smaller pot as well. I'm gonna fill my pot with 3 cups of water. It is about a 2-to-1 ratio, so if I'm doing 1.5 cups of rice, I'm gonna want 3 cups of water for it to absorb. And while this fills up, we'll go ahead and grab cutting boards, knives, and everything else that we need to actually chop and prep the meal. The 3 cups is going to go into this smaller pot here. And I'll set it over here on this burner. So we've got our 3 cups of water here. We're going to put this pot on this back burner, set this heat to high. We want it boiling. And I, just for fun, I'm going to pour in 1 chicken bouillon cube that we have left over from last week. If you don't have one, that's totally fine. Salt will do, but just in case you're not familiar, you're not aware with how this works, dishes like rice and pasta absorb the flavor that they're cooked in. Same thing with potatoes. If you're gonna boil and mash potatoes, they're going to taste like whatever you cook them in. And if you only cook them in water, then they're just gonna taste like water. So we do want a little bit of flavor. Do salt your water, put in a bouillon cube. Another one, if I'm feeling really fancy, is a little store-bought gochujang. We'll do like 1/4 teaspoon of salt because the chicken bouillon itself is pretty salty. I don't need too much more salt than that. But yeah, the more flavor that you add, the better it's going to taste. I also, again, being the garlic fiend that I am, I'm going to add some garlic, just maybe like these tiny little baby cloves here. And while we wait for that, we'll go ahead and get this started. Okay, bring out a knife. I just did dishes. So we were finishing off with the 4 different types of savings accounts, which I think we did successfully get through. And now let's talk about the way that we should be approaching money to determine whether or not investing is even worth it, because there are some basic rules to investing, and until those rules are perhaps satisfied, you may end up losing money in the long run. And of course it's up to the market to decide things like that, but there are smarter ways to invest versus riskier ways, and so I want to build a foundation for you all to invest smartly, to be smart investors. And so one of those things is to know your goals. Let me throw this away really quick. We're gonna go ahead and grab an onion out of the fridge as well. right? So the first rule when it comes to investing is have money in savings. And I know that that sounds maybe counterintuitive, but you will learn through time in the market that not having any money in savings means that when you have a bad day and you need to withdraw money and dip into what would be in a savings account, but you don't have one, what that means is that you have to be at the mercy of the market and just hope that today is a better day for the rest of humanity than it was for you. And there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. Put these in the veggie scrap bag. It's getting pretty full and I'm excited. So there's no guarantee that today is going to be a better day for me than it is for you. If you're needing to pull money out of the market, perhaps a lot of other people are needing to pull money out of the market for whatever given reason, okay? And depending on how long it's been in the market and what's going on with the market, again, there's no guarantee that it's been really like working that hard or growing for you, but also you now perhaps have to worry about short-term gains, taxes versus long-term gains taxes, which long-term gains have fewer taxes subjected to them. So to avoid that, and let's be honest, there really isn't ever a time that you would want money to not be in the market if you're working towards these goals, whatever they may be, and however long it takes, you know, however much time you have allotted to get them there. You don't ever really want money out of the market because then it's not working for you anymore. The whole intent of having money in the market and playing the odds is to have them build and work for you. Any money that you take out of the market to go towards whatever these emergencies were that you needed to withdraw them for, they're not working for you anymore. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to go grab some rice, wash your rice as well. I did 3 cups here, so I want 1.5 cups. I want like a sliver. Oops, here we go. A sliver of onion, all right, to go with my garlic, and I'll show you what we're gonna do to make our rice really delicious and flavorful. I'll be right back. I went to Costco, which means that I have a massive thing of rice, and we only need 1.5 cups. So let's get a 1/2 cup measuring cup, and I'll go back in with the same Pyrex as I had. Right. Give that a good rinse. Yes, rinse. Pre-wash your rice just a little bit. Some people don't. I've actually had it prepared both ways, but I err on the side of caution, and I like to pre-rinse. Do one more just because it's still pretty cloudy. And while I do this, actually, let's get our pot onto the stove here. We're going to turn our heat to low. And that way, we'll do a low and slow sort of a thing. Keep washing your rice. So, with regards to investing, right, you need to have money in savings. And how much money? Great question. It depends on back to the budget. And I feel like I'm a broken record where like you need goals, you need a budget, you need goals, you need a budget. But at the end of the day, you do. That is the foundation upon which you build everything else. No one is going to tell you better than you how to live your life based off of meeting your needs at any given time in that life. So take care of you in the same way that you're cooking with me. Take care of you in terms of your finances. All right, we're gonna let this sit just here for a second while I get impatient and finely chop our garlic, or if you're lazy like I am, I'm just gonna run it through the mince. The garlic press. Our hot water is boiling, which is exciting. We're just about ready for it. I'll set aside our garlic and our onion in a small little dish here. We can see perfect. All right. Chugging them right along. All right. So to determine how much money you need to have saved up before it's time for you to start investing, we go back to what we consider a good number for our emergency savings, okay? And what that typically looks like, the formula typically is 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up in an account for just in case. And that could be anything. It could be you losing your job, that could be you needing to move suddenly, unexpected expenses like God forbid you get into a car accident or something like that, and you need to meet your insurance deductibles, because unless you meet your deductible, your insurance ain't going to pay anything, right? So we're finally chopping this. I am actually going to just run it through the garlic press as well because I'm feeling lazy. So we're putting the onion in the garlic press. It's a little bit tougher, but you see it does still come out. So 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. And I'm not talking about the wants, right? I'm not necessarily talking about the Netflix subscription or anything like that. You can live a couple of months without Netflix. You can cancel that subscription very easily. But the things that you cannot live without, things like rent, utilities, a car payment, food, so on and so forth. The essentials for life. Go back through your budget. See how much you're spending on that. See perhaps if you could be spending a little less, but whatever that number then comes out to, multiply it by 3, and that is a good savings goal. Okay? You're going to see that number, and for some of you, that's going to be 5 figures. Okay? And you might not have anything right now in savings. Please do not be discouraged. Please. Okay, it is better to have something, anything at all, $1,000, $500. It is better to have anything in savings than nothing at all. Keep yourself alive. Keep taking care of you better than you. Start with short-term emergency savings, 3 to 6 months. Okay, once you have that working, all right, you don't necessarily need to get to that final number and then you can start investing, but we at least need you putting like $100 per paycheck into savings or $50 per paycheck into savings. Something needs to be going towards paying you first. All right, once you have started working towards that, then we move on to investing. Okay, but again, it kind of depends on your goals, which investment account you should be putting money into. And here's why. Depending on when you want to have this money ready for you, that will determine the amount of risk that you can afford to take, the amount of money that you should be putting in and front loading right away, the amount of time that you can afford to set aside and save and not think about it, for example. Okay. Until you have goals in mind, my mentor, testing for light and thrust. Oh, not even a little bit. Let's turn that up then. All right. And while we turn that up and we wait, we'll go ahead and we'll get started with the chicken and the vegetables and the pan that's about to go in. All right. So my personal finance mentor, when I first started out on this journey, and I am forever indebted to him. I am so grateful that I got to meet him and got to know him. He taught me so much of what I know today about personal finance. He made the comparison that money is a little bit like children. Your kids, I'm going to guess, are pretty good kids, okay? I'm going to assume that your kids are good kids, that they're good listeners. For the rest of this onion, we'll go ahead and we'll chop it into slices. You can see actually that onions naturally have these like groove lines right? You can kind of see the grooves already. We'll go ahead and we'll just follow those grooves. So you're looking at about maybe like 1/2 centimeter to 1 centimeter thick slices. Your kids are good kids. I'm gonna assume that they are if you have kids, and if not, just go with it, okay? If you tell your child to go to their room, odds are your child's gonna listen and they're gonna go to their room, which is good, right? You've given them a task and they're good listeners, so they're gonna do it. Wonderful. But then what? You sent them to their room, but did you tell them to do anything? Did you tell them for how long they needed to be there? Did you tell them what needed to get done in order for them to like not be in their room anymore, for them to come out? No, you didn't. You just told them to go to their room. Money is like that, all right? Odds are if you go up to that kid's room after, 5-10 minutes, perhaps they'll still be there, but they're not doing anything productive, right? They're just kind of, I would imagine, they're doom scrolling on social media, like TikTok or something like that. They're playing video games. They're making a mess. They're pulling all the clothes out of their drawers and doing dress up. Whatever it is that they're doing, right? They are occupying their time. Perhaps they're not even in the room anymore at all. They've decided that they've got other better places that they would rather be. And now you've just like lost track of them and you don't know where they are anymore. Okay. Money is like that. Okay. Money needs more than just a task, like go to your room. It needs a purpose. Go to your room and put your clothes away. And when you're done putting your clothes away, then you can come out, you can be with the family, you can socialize and hang out with your friends. Then you need to do your homework, whatever that next step happens to be. Money is like that. It needs both a task and a purpose. Okay, let's test for light and frost. Ooh, wonderful. We've got light and frost, which is good. I'm going to turn this heat down low, because I turned it up. So we're going to go in now with our olive oil right here. And I'm going to like coat the bottom of the pan. So 1, 2, 3, right? You need more oil than you think, because what's going to happen is we're going to start with our, popping. We're going to start very quickly. It's too hot. I know it's already too hot. Let me remove it from the heat so I can do this still and work towards this still. Perfect. Still a little sizzle, too high, but we want to go in with our minced garlic and onion. Give that a swirl around. Ooh, gosh, it smells so good in here already. Wow. Delicious, right? We want that to brown but not burn. Brown but not burn, very important. Still sizzling, still moving it around. And once we've finished getting it browned but not burned, like caramelized, I'm going to turn my heat back up to high on my pot because it's still hot but not boiling anymore. And we're sizzling away, which is exciting. We just finished the onions, so I'm going to grab a pan. I personally like broiler pans for the chicken that I cook. I love chicken thighs. I think that they're juicy and delicious and tender, so I use chicken thighs. But for whatever chicken you used, you can either use a broiler pan, which I'll show you what that is here. So a broiler pan looks like this. It's got 2 layers, the slatted layer up top and the catch layer underneath, right? What happens is when you put fatty meats on here, like chicken thighs, the fat then drips down off of it, but it still keeps that delicious heat, goodness, melty deliciousness. And I'll show you why I personally love broiler pans for my chicken thighs. It's because I get to now put my chopped vegetables, like my onion and the tomatoes that I'm about to grab, I can put them down on a base layer, lay the chicken thighs on top, and then as the flavor and the fat drips off of the chicken thighs, they season and add delicious goodness to the tomatoes underneath. All right, pausing there because our rice is ready to go in. Exciting, exciting, exciting. We don't want this to be here for too long, just a couple of minutes, not even. And we'll give it a stir to make sure that it's fully coated in this oil, onion, garlicky goodness that's here. It has already absorbed just about everything that I put into the bottom of this pan. Wow, that's so fast. We'll let it sit for just a little bit while we wait for this to come back to a boil. It's just about there, but I'll give it like one more minute. Moving back to the onion. You're gonna go ahead and sprinkle your onion into the bottom of a broiler pan. If you don't have a broiler pan, this works just as fine with a 9x13 baking dish, or once again, if you have stovetop only and you just want to pan fry your onions and have them release that juicy, delicious flavor along with the chicken, totally fine. All right, I'm gonna give our rice one more stir before adding in the boiling water, which is just about ready. All right. Yep, this looks so good. So your rice should look like this, all right? It's got all of this color, all of this flavor is coming out of it. So good. And now we pour in our water. Give this a stir. Make sure that all of the rice that you've picked up, displaying it to your friends and showing them how good you are at cooking, gets back into this pot so it can also cook. All right. The heat is on low. You want it to be simmering, so definitely not a full boil, but occasional bubbles should definitely be popping up. Bubbling, but not boiling. And I will go ahead and get a lid on this pan. I believe this is the right one. Yes, it is. Okay, so we got our onions in the base of the broiler pan. What I also want to have here in the base of this broiler pan is going to be my tomatoes. I'm going to grab 3 tomatoes, I think. Yes, I had a bunch of 4 and I want 1 left over for breakfast. So we'll grab 3, 1, 2, oops, 3. Someone got really sticker happy with these tomatoes, good gracious. Remove all 15 stickers from your tomatoes. Give them a rinse in the sink. All right. And we'll go ahead and we'll just give our tomatoes, we can see them right in here. We'll put this into the sink. All right, we'll cut back here. So we want to give our tomatoes a cut in half, like that. And we're gonna just cut around the top of it so that the circle, if you can see, we're cutting around the circle. So this is cut number 3, around the circle, and then this last one, 4, is around the circle. I then chop off the top so that the circle bit goes into the veggie freeze bag. And then we want, like, if you think about like a pair of dice-sized or diced tomatoes, okay? But nice, bigger chunks, totally fine. They're all gonna soften and cook together with these delicious onions and this chicken here in a little bit. All right, cut this in half again. Okay, and we'll cut this one into thirds, perhaps 1, 2, and then in half so that it's 6. Juice goes in, seeds go in, peels go in, everything. We cut our next one the same way we cut the first one, so 4 cuts to get this little circly top isolated, and then we'll cut off the top, cut into smaller pieces. We'll do 1, 2, 3 for our largest one. Spreading it all through the pan. I'll take a picture of what this looks like in a second. Oops, I got carried away. Anyway, we'll do that with our third tomato as well. Let's get back into money, okay? It needs a task and a purpose, and based off of what your goals are, that then determines whether it might be smarter to just be saving for these personal finance goals versus, yeah, okay, maybe investing is the smart way to go, all right? Time is the key factor there, and here's why. On average, and of course it's not cyclical and it's not predictable, but on average, the market has a less than ideal year, 1 out of every 3 years. And again, like, that's not a hard and fast rule by any means, but generally speaking, what we used to tell our clients was, you know, if you have goals and you're trying to achieve them in even the next 5 years, it may be smarter to just put them in one of those high yield savings accounts or certificates of deposit, or putting them in one of those accounts, savings accounts, that will still grow and accrue your money, but will not necessarily take a hit if the market has a bad year. Maybe if you've got this goal coming up and it's within the next 5 years, it might just be better to put it in one of those accounts, okay? Now, your money is yours to blow. Amy's drinking water. Your money is yours to blow however you want, but if you would like to not blow it, then maybe we need to make educated decisions about our finances. So, the bottom of our broiler pan is now covered in delicious tomato oniony goodness. I'm gonna drizzle some olive oil over top of this here. Drizzling some olive oil, just a little bit, because again, the chicken fat's gonna drip off and add more flavoring to it. We will go through with a little bit of salt, just because we're here, so why not? Just a little sprinkling of salt over the top. Whoop. Okay, and now I'm ready for my next layer, which is my chicken. Now, I hope that you were able to see the short that got posted for the 5-minute marinade that we did, but just in case, fret not, my mindful meal preppers, it's gonna be okay, all right? Your chicken is still gonna be delicious even if it did not get marinated, if it perhaps only was able to marinate for like 30 minutes or so, all right? But we are just going to lay this chicken flat over the top of the broiler pan, like this. Oops, right here. All right. Make sure the pieces aren't touching. Make sure they're pretty evenly dispersed. I've got like teeny tiny pieces and much bigger pieces. So for sure we've got 4 servings here. We might even have 5 depending on how big this last little, wow. Yep. We've got a full 4.5, which is exciting. Okay. What I like to do once I've evenly spread out and dispersed this, I like to take the remainder of this and I'm probably food contamination is going to come after me, but I like to pour this over the chicken to keep the flavors exactly where I would like them to be, which is on the chicken. And whatever is extra then drips down to the veggies. They get more flavor, they get more goodness. Squeeze out this bag. Exciting. All right, I'm going to throw this away in my trash can, wash my hands like my life depends on it, because I'm not trying to get myself food poisoning. I certainly don't want you all to get food poisoning, so let me throw this away and wash my hands, and then we'll finish off by talking about whatever our investing goals happen to be. So, if you have one of those 5-year plans, that's great. Like if you want to be debt-free in 5 years, amazing. More power to you. I fully believe in you and I've got faith, all right? But investing your way out of debt may not be the way to do it. If you want to be debt-free in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years, whatever it is, that's a much more reasonable goal. But, and investing might actually benefit you in that case. This is going to go into our 425 preheated oven for 20 minutes, maybe 25. I'll give it a look towards the end and see how it appears. But let's give a check on our rice. Wow, it smells so good. Okay, so depending on then the timeline, that determines what an investment account, savings account needs to best or will best suit your needs. So from there, we'll talk briefly about like the general categories of investing, which are like the low and slow all the way to the higher and more volatile, higher risk but higher reward categories. All right. At the very end, like most conservative, is just savings, right? It's not even being invested in the market. It's not even, or it's barely being invested in the market if you've got like a high yield savings account. But depending on what that is, very, very low risk, very secure because it's insured, usually by the FDIC or the NCUA, which are regulation bodies, all right? But there's not a lot of growth. All right. And if you think about it, it is a little bit of a give and take ratio, right? You've got growth, you've got accessibility, you've got security, right? Pick two. You can have accessible and safe accounts like savings accounts, but there's not going to be a lot of growth with them, right? When you get into bonds, all right, there's a little more growth and there's security there. Whoops. You all right, Amy? With things like savings bonds or certificates of deposit, you have a little bit more growth and security. Odds are you're not going to lose it, but you don't have accessibility because bonds, much like certificates of deposit, are essentially promises you make to the financial institutions or the government or whoever you're wheeling and dealing with, saying, I promise I won't touch this money for 5 years or 2 years or whatever it is. So it's not really accessible, but there is some growth to it and it is safe for sure. All right. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit to see if I can get the timing better with this chicken. Definitely didn't set a timer. Let me do that now. We'll set it for 20 minutes starting now. Oh. All right. Oops. Okay. And then you have stocks, and this can be in the form of retirement accounts or mutual funds or brokerage accounts or whatever, okay? There you have growth and you typically have accessibility. You can pretty quickly get that money out of the market, but there isn't security. There's a chance that you could lose it all, just depending on how the market feels, okay? So knowing that then, again, you then figure out where your goals best meet. I need this money. Guaranteed I need to have this money in 10 years. Okay, well, let's take some risks now, but as we get closer to that 10-year deadline, we should be moving it towards lower growth but more secure accounts. All right? So the timeline really, really does matter in choosing what you're looking for and what your ideals are in terms of I need security above all things. Some of us have played with the market before and gotten really burnt by it, depending on your goals and depending on how much time you have to actually achieve them. That then determines what you should be investing in versus what you should perhaps just be saving in. The most conservative of accounts have that security and they have that accessibility because they're not really dealing with the market at all. But what anyone will tell you is these accounts are safe, but they're the safest way to go broke, is usually the phrase, all right? And what we mean by that is they don't keep up with inflation, all right? And we'll talk about inflation if we have time, but I want to continue on with investing a little bit because we're going to touch upon inflation a few more times. The next type of account that might be worth investing in, depending on your goals, depending on your timelines, that then is kind of like the bond and the bond markets, the certificates of deposit equivalent, all right? In that case, you are investing a little bit more, but it's not necessarily the traditional market. You're investing in the Fed and other things, all right? But it's the same basic concept as our CDs, where you are going to, I think of government bonds when I give this example, right? You go to Uncle Sam and you say, Uncle Sam, I'm gonna loan you some money, as if you're not taking enough. I'm gonna loan you some money. You can have this money to meet whatever goals you want to achieve in the next 5 years, but come 5 years, I need this money back plus interest. And Uncle Sam says, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. I will take that money and I will honor that promise. I will pay you back plus interest in 5 years' time. Slow growth, because you're not really dealing with the market at all, but there is some interest earned. When we talk about interest, it's like 3 to maybe 5%. And for those of you who have actually invested in bonds, I would love to hear like what your best year was, because there have been some really good years with bonds. Not often, but some very, very good years. And then the next major one is the market itself. You open up what we call like a brokerage account, okay? And that's you doing things like, for example, and I'm not going to make any recommendations of what you should or shouldn't be investing in. We're not touching that. That's a terrible game to play. But for example, you buy Apple, okay? You have Apple products. You think that Apple is going in a good direction. You have faith that in the next 5 years they will continue to grow. We buy Apple. Okay, cool. All right. Generally speaking, the larger companies, like when we talk about the S&P 500, the 500 largest US-based companies, typically they're okay, right? You're not going to double your profits overnight, right? Their years of major, exponential, insane growth are generally behind them. But in the same way that they're not super likely to double their profits overnight, they're also not super likely to go out of business overnight. So investing in those large companies will yield like around, give or take, depending on the year, but will yield around 7% return. You're not going to double your money overnight, but you're also not likely to lose it either. So those are the larger companies. And then as we get into smaller companies, as we get into international markets, as we get into things like options, commodities, crypto, that used to be such a hot button word, the higher risk, more volatile markets then do have those chances of doubling profits overnight or busting and going out of business overnight, much more volatile. So the question that often would get asked at this point is, well, which one should I invest in? Should I just stick with cash? Should I go with the highest risk, highest reward accounts? Like what should I do? Generally speaking, the name of the game is diversify, right? You probably want a little bit of everything. And that way, God forbid, the market does go bust, well, it'll be okay because you do have backup options like your bonds, like your cash and your savings accounts, okay? The name of the game is diversify, all right? Think of it almost like an all-you-can-eat buffet, right? If you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet and you load up your plate on one dish and it turns out that one dish was spoiled, it was bad, you're gonna go to the hospital. But that's not typically what ends up happening in an all-you-can-eat buffet, right? We usually sample and we get a little bit of everything. And that way, if one dish is bad, it just doesn't sit well with us, whatever, we might get like bubble gut, but we're not going to be hospitalized. That's kind of the mental approach that at least I personally take to investing. We want diversity. We don't want all of our eggs in one basket, because if that basket drops, SOL, okay? So money needs to have a task and a purpose. It needs to have a timeline, and that will then determine which of these goals, which of these accounts will help you to best meet your goals. Now, let's talk about inflation, and I think that that's all I'm gonna have time for. Let me check on my rice here really quick. Ooh, that's a hot pot, good gracious. Love to see it, but don't love to feel it. There's not too much water left. Let me go ahead and taste a little bit of this just in case. I'm not trying to burn myself like I just burnt my hand. Okay. Wow, that's so good. It needs a little bit more water, maybe a little bit more time. Check your rice too, just in case. Just a little bit. We'll just sprinkle it over. There. It's still hot. Who'd have thunk? Put this back on. And what we'll probably do actually is we'll let that sit on low for a little bit longer, but then I'll probably just turn it off and take it off the heat altogether. Okay, let's talk about inflation and why cash and exclusively cash money under the mattress, unfortunately, is the safest way to go broke. Okay, we hear inflation a lot nowadays. It feels like it's skyrocketed and it's still pretty high compared to, anyway. If you ever hear some of our elders, some of our older generations say things like, back in my day, a gallon of gas would cost this much, or a dozen eggs was $2, or $1, or penny candy, 5 and nickel and dime stores, 5 and 10 stores, right? Back in my day, life was just better and it was cheaper. And you say, okay, that's not helpful for right now. I could afford to pay my way through college. Yeah, well, college only cost you like $2,000. I could afford to pay my way through college if it only cost me $2,000. So, with life and with time, the cost of life becomes more expensive. Prices gradually rise with time. And I feel like lately they've been rising faster than they've ever been. And, you know, I don't necessarily have a great frame of reference for that because I haven't been around for very long to like track these things. But it certainly feels like just, I mean, the inflation rate being at 7% a few years ago, and it is like life is just more expensive. As life goes on, it becomes more expensive. And that's because the value of money gradually decreases. It takes more dollars to buy the same goods. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. All right. I would actually love to hear, like, for those of you that have tracked inflation and for those of you who have actually seen like the cost of gas balloon, the cost of eggs, whatever. I would love to see like the drastic jumps that have been made. But that is inflation, and it doesn't matter if this is like short term the way that it was recently, or if it's long term of back in my day. Money devalues with time. So the dollars that you are stashing under your mattress right now will not be worth as much in the future. For those of you who have been burned by the market before, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life because you know best how to take care of you. But what I do want to urge you to do is look at inflation rates and look at how much you need to save right now to afford your same lifestyle 20 years from now, and see if it's even possible doing what you're doing to keep up with inflation and exclusively save. If it's not, then maybe it's time to look into investing. And here's why. Yes, 1 out of every 3 years, the market has a down year-ish, give or take, okay? But generally speaking, the market goes up, all right? If you think about, if you pull up like any sort of stock market indexed, like we'll do the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or the Dow, and you zoom out, right? If you look very close, it's all over the place. It looks like a roller coaster. It's terrifying. But if you zoom out 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, the lifetime of the stock, what you will see is a gradual increase. And so long as it continues to increase, what that means is the value of those dollars will more likely keep up with inflation, or perhaps even beat inflation, depending on who's doing what in the markets. Let's be real, in the world as a whole. Okay, so again, I'm not going to tell you like you should invest and you should buy this and you should sell that and you should not doing it. Okay, but I do want to make sure that you have a good understanding of why investing increases your odds of beating inflation, and therefore might be worth your while. There's that. We've got about 5 minutes left on the timer. I feel like we're at a pretty good stopping point. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this timer run out. My rice is just about done. My chicken is just about done. I'm gonna let you run your timer out, and I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this meal. Thank you for taking care of you today. My name is still M. This has been Life's Table. Bon appetit. Hi. It's days later, and I just realized that I never filmed like me tasting this. Not that I think it really like makes or breaks the video for you all. But let's go ahead and we'll try it. I mean, I know it tastes good, but let's go ahead and give a little taste test for you all. It's just as good leftover reheated too, which is nice. I still love it. It's still tasty and delicious. I hope that you all enjoyed it, leftover or fresh. Thank you for taking care of you today, and I hope you enjoy. Bon appetit. Hello, my mindful meal preppers. My name is M. This is Life's Table, and welcome to our first mindful marinade. The instructions for what you need to make our marinade are on the screen. Feel free to build as I build, but you're also welcome to close your eyes, find a comfortable, neutral position, and pause for perhaps the first time today to take 3 minutes for you. The choice is yours, but the instructions on the screen will not go away, I promise. We're going to begin by taking 3 deep breaths. We will inhale for 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. Ready? Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Last one, inhale. Hold. Exhale. Wonderful. Now, I want you to draw focus to your feet, these small but mighty parts of our body that make up our literal foundation. Very little more than flesh and bone, yet strong enough and powerful enough to support our entire weight on just our toes. Feel how they are coming into contact with the floor. Are they flat with your weight evenly displaced between them, or are you leaning more to one side or the other? Do your toes feel warm or cold? Do your feet feel tired from everything you have accomplished today, or do they feel rested and ready for everything yet to be achieved?
On an inhale, scrunch up your feet and curl your toes as hard as you can. Hold as you feel the tension build, those tiny muscles working ceaselessly all day, every day to keep you balanced and vertical and moving forward. And with an exhale, let all of that tension go. Feel your feet relax back to how they were before, and then perhaps even further as they release stress you did not even realize you were harboring. Wiggle your toes, rock forward and backward, shake out your feet, and redistribute your weight intentionally and evenly. Observe the ripple effect as these tiny changes in such a small part of your body adjust your entire posture and cause you to stand a little straighter. We finish by thanking our bodies for taking care of us today, just as we take care of them through these nutritious meals. I hope that you enjoy